Yo, what's up guys? We're going to be talking about 5 different SF teams and let's see who's the best between all of them because we have a few new added units to the meta, which might actually be very good. And the one that I do mention is this one. Cordelia, also known as the Win Chun-Li, now has the block beneficial effects on the enemy with every hit, on a multi-hit on the S2 and a single hit on the S1, so this could be a 15%. Over here, it's pretty hard to get 15%. But let's see also, next to the ugliest teams, which team is actually better. So you do see 2 teams on the screen right here as well. Those are a bit of older teams, but I do actually want to emphasize mainly on like, okay, how hard are they to rune and how fast are they? So you have definitely seen this Bill team that you see here on the screen. It is about 33 seconds average. And it is fairly easy to rune. I'm not going to say much more about this. I will leave a link in the description to this video if you do want to check out this video. But 33 seconds is definitely a bit on the slower side. Video that I did do a month ago or something along those times was this team over here with the Ling Ling moving twice. I actually changed the set a little bit on the Ling Ling to make the Ling Ling on very high damage where she could like half HP the boss and that kind of stuff. I did a 30-second average on this one. But actually, if you go to my game, in Scout Battle does actually state what your fastest average on a run of 30 was, which was a 26, which actually was done with the same team. So I would say it's between 26 and 30, depending on your rune quality. And I would say it's like a mid to rune. It's not super easy, but it's also not very hard. Then another team that has been showcased with the Cordelia is from Wilgar here on Reddit. And this team is actually that really caught my interest that I think like, yo, this is actually kind of interesting to do. So we have the Cordelia. We have that into probably the Shaina, into the Raok, I guess, into the Hua, into a Star. I think a Star could also be a Brandia in this case. I think that Brandia would be pretty nice in this too. But then again, I'll start for the team of Scoot clear multiple units that kind of shape our way. And I think that this is a pretty solid team. He said it was 25 seconds to 35 seconds. I guess it is kind of depending on the rune quality. I think I haven't actually run this myself, but I would totally expect that this could be a 30-second average team. And it's super easy to rune. Because with the other teams, you always have to be, it's like, oh, has to be a specific speed on this, has to be specific speed on that, has to be specifics over here, there, and blah, 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 that kind of stuff. This one is just, as long as the tuning is right, as long as they do enough damage, it will definitely work. You have the team up potential with the Cordelia in this as well. And I think that this is a super safe run with just all 4-star units, which everyone will have. So I definitely do really like this team over here. Then team 4, which is a team of Shrumia, and Shrumia showcased a team of close to 25 seconds, like 24 to 25 second average. I would say I've tested this myself. You need really crazy runes for this, so it is 24 to 25, I would rather say. I think for most people, it mostly aims to like 26-ish, because in the end, this was definitely looking at more of like a good RNG run than anything, but it's super hard to rune. But what is this team about? You actually go for an Agrius, Claire, Garuda, Theon, Miriam. But these are actually very specific. So I did actually rune this up myself to give it more of a test. And I'll showcase you a bit about that. And also why it's that hard to rune. Because in the end, you can sneak peek his runes. This is a triple fight set. The man re-upped like, I don't know, an ungodly amount of fight sets to get these kind of sets. 250 crit damage on triple fight is absolutely insane. So if you want the written version of that, I will also link that in the description down below from the version that Shrumia wrote down. But you can also just check out on this video. So what is the main idea on this? Well, this team is absolutely super genius. And you kind of have to see it to showcase how it works. So we're first going to do a run of just showcasing it. And then I'll just zoom into the runes. So first of all, you have a boost which kills with the Claire. Then in this case, you have an S1 into an S1 where he takes a double turn and then kill with that second hit. Very smart as well. In here, we have once again that boost goes for an S1. That is fine, because then the Kona boosted up to actually kill over there. Very, very smart theory crafted over there by Shrumia. Absolutely a lot of credits to that. But there's a few buts to this where it could go wrong. You could miss the branding, you could go for triple S1, you could go for a bunch of things where you just simply don't do enough damage. So this will be a 27 run if you do land the brand. If you don't land the brand and you don't have enough damage, you are going to fail. So this team is definitely very hard to make, but I'll showcase you why the runes are that specific as they are. and then also showcase why it could go wrong. But in the end, this team has been showcasing a lot of potential, but I also have seen it go to like 39 seconds, and I also have seen it fail because the rune quality, especially if you do miss the brand, is pretty hard to actually come by. In this case, there is still an option that if you miss the first brand, then you would go for a... you get in your 5th turn. Because of the 5th turn, you get a potential stun. You could get stunned on your Agarius. You could say it's like, oh, make it multiple wills. You're not going to do enough damage if you go for that. But you do have the Kona that would go also for a research boost back to the Agrius every time that it's getting after the turn. But then you're already looking at 27 seconds. If you then still do not kill because you never landed the branding, which is a possibility, then it goes even worse. So there's a lot of things that could go wrong. But if you get like a perfect AI scenario where you always start off with that brand early on, it is just super, super chill, and it's super nice of a team. And it's definitely one of those things that's like, okay, that looks really good. But as mentioned, if you're not landing those brands, or you go for triple S1, so I'm actually going to go into a run where, whoops, I'm so used to another game that actually you have to click the thing that it actually runs out and blah, blah, whatever. But let me showcase you a run where we just go for pure on S1s, because that is the main thing with all of the Agrius teams. What if you only go S1? What is going to happen in that case? So in this case, we're going to be just pausing and playing every time to see what the AI would do. Except for the Agrius, I'm going to be pushing the S1s. So in this case, we're just going to S1 into an S1. Is that enough damage? That is enough damage. So that's definitely not an issue. So in this case, we can just let it run on this. Whatever you do over here does not really matter. And then we go from here. Okay. So in this case, we always go S1. We go for an S1 on you. We also go for an S1 on you again. Then we do go for a boost up and we go for an S1 again. Then you could get stunned over here, and this is where you die. So normally with this, S1 would have been fine, but now my run is dead. And that is exactly the thing that I was looking into. I think from the final S1, I might have still killed. I want to actually give it a try if I do actually kill. I think Shrumia's team does kill. My team does not kill. I think I lack by the slight bit of damage where I'm not going to do enough damage where I potentially don't kill. Also in this case, I think I'm just super dead from this point on, which also takes a bit longer and blah, blah, blah. But sure, let's actually go for a run where I just spam S1. But I don't get stunned, and then I get another research in, and let's see how that actually works out over there. So it's always good to min-max, like, okay, where do things go wrong, especially in SF, because SF is just a shitty dungeon. Like, that's just the main thing of this whole thing. It is quite the shitty dungeon over here, which could potentially have, like, a lot of issues. So, but also, once again, this whole scenario of, like, all of the turn orders, super well smart craft. So we go for an S1, we go S1 over here, we go for another S1 over there, we go for a boost on you. We go for another S1 on you. We don't get any stuns. S1, do we actually kill? We don't kill. So that is one of those things, and this already has a pretty substantial set. If it had a slight bit better set, it would have done better. But also, you did see his Claire was sitting at the triple fight. If my Claire would be triple fight, I would have had enough damage. But in this case, I simply do not do enough damage. So that's one of those things that you might be ruining up this team, and you would be like, hey, why is it suddenly like failing a bunch of times? Well, if it just starts spamming S1s, then you could go into issue scenarios. In this case, it still worked out. But if you get stunned, it definitely does not work out. So mainly getting stunned on the Agrius will give you the bad run. But let's actually look at the runes, because the runes are super specific. And he did have them all written down. If you want written down version, you can check his guide. Otherwise, just keep listening. So what do we have over here? This wants to be about 151 plus. Could be a bit faster, but this is about what you want to be aiming for. You only need 55 crit rate. You do want to go for 24 accuracy, because 24 accuracy gives you the maximum amount of chance to go for a brand. He did mention about going for this skill with 1 off max cooldown. To be honest, I think you should just go max cooldown. Like he said it, where it gives you more chance to have it up at the right time at the final boss, at like the first hit of the final boss. I feel like you get 3 turns in with this unit anyways. I would have rather have it like more up more often. But that is what I think. Maybe he's thinking about it that you want to have it 1 turn, and then the other 2 turns you guaranteed don't want to do it because it's a lot less damage and the skill 1 is a lot more damage. Maybe that is the case. I'm not 100% sure, but he recommended to go for this with -1 cooldown. And probably he did test that a lot more than I do, so I would recommend the same thing. Then you, of course, want to go damage wind, and you want to go attack up on the other side. Then your Claire is also very specific on the build. You want to actually keep her pretty slow. He recommended, he got a 20 plus 26 himself. You do want to still have this one 2 or 3 speed faster than this. So don't go any higher than the 150 because your Kona apparently has to be exactly plus 46. So you cannot go too high on this one. And you want to go for as much damage as possible. You have to kill with just an attack buff. The units on the other side have about 24k HP, so you have to deal about 8k damage per hit because you are hitting 3 times. So that is the amount of damage that you're kind of aiming for. Me with triple fight, I can definitely for the life of me not make that. But with a fatal and a fight set, I could do that. Also, you want to go for combinations of attack increasing effect, additional damage by attack, and wind up. And then on the other side, also attacking or additional damage by attack, attack increasing effect, those kind of things. Maybe if I went higher for additional damage by attack, that's probably the higher scaler. I could have got a little bit closer with triple fight, but even then with triple fight, I'm nowhere near a 250 crit damage set with 2.1k attack on a triple fight, like not even remotely close. Well, as mentioned, this one, you want to be on the plus 46 with a will set in there. This one you actually have to get, which is also not that easy for everyone. You need a triple fight set that is fast, that makes you on the tick of the 286 or the 287, whatever it is. I think it's 286. So you need about 175 extra on the triple fight set on the Tion, which once again, I do have a few sets, like slots that make it pretty fast with like the 30s over here. But I could definitely assume that like not everyone is going to be able to make a plus 176 Tion. But you really need a plus 176 Tion for this on triple fight. Otherwise, you're just gonna lack damage. And then your Miriam is pretty easy. You just wants to be plus 3 speed. He set on the Claire, but actually I was plus 3 speed on that and I had to go for plus 4 speed. Otherwise, sometimes the Kona was, or no, wait, even the Tion was straight up boosting this thing, which was a little bit weird. So, as mentioned, very genius team, but also super, super hard to rune. And even for mine right here, it does feel a little bit too many times for my liking. So therefore, would I really recommend to rune this? Well, if you have crazy, crazy fight runes and a really good switch set on that, yes. If not, probably I would go for a skip. Then this is the 5th team that I did want to showcase over here, which is a team that I crafted just now, just to see how it works of pretty much using the same style of team that I used before with the Claire into the Gina Perfect AI. She will always use the S2 on the final boss. But now we also have a backup brander, or another backup brander, a backup buff blocker on her in that case. Plus, she has some good damage if things are already pushed back. By the Lauren being pushed back, she will get ignored defense over here. And then we go into the final hit of a Brandia. Also with the Brandia, I do have to take this one piece that I used for the Agrius over here, and that is all that I have to switch for this. So let's see how this would work. So this is a Claire into a Gina, into a Lauren, into a Delia, into a Brandia. It would be really nice if Heihachi was strong enough where you could place Heihachi in the position of the Brandia, because then you have a lot higher lead. But the difference between this slash Heihachi is just so much weaker. So in this case, you can already see that you hella clapping through the boss. Like you're absolutely destroying this thing. And this is looking at a 20 to 23 second average. Or well, not necessarily 20 to 23 second average, but that is the team how fast it can get. Also, I still can get a few more levels in on my Cordelia, but let's actually run this on some repeat so we can see where it goes right and where it also potentially goes wrong. Because in the end, we have this issue. She will always S2, which is really nice, but 15 check. That is the big issue, that she gets 15 checked. Because of that 15 check, you still have this one as a backup, but the run does get a little bit messy over here. So we do get all of those. We did not get a full-on S2, so people started derping a little bit, and you don't kill right away. That's already one of those things like, yeah, okay, I already see some issue scenarios of where it can go wrong. In this case, it still went right. But that is the main thing, that these units don't always use the S2. If Cordelia was always to use S2, this team would be a lot and a lot stronger. But yeah, one of those units, once again, doesn't always use the right skill, which they just have as a big issue for this SF in the first place. Also, if you have S2 on the Claire at the first place, that is so much stronger than going for an S1 because this also already have the death break. You have this in there, that in there, the S2, you destroy half of the HP, you destroy the full HP. Super easy. I've even seen it happen if everyone uses their S2 at the right moment. You can get 20-second teams because you're also clearing the mid-boss straight up. So that's just a lot of options out there where you could do an insane amount of damage. But then the issue is like, how fast is this actually? Well, the issue is it is going to fail as well. Because if everyone uses the wrong skills, like in this case, you definitely still clear mid-boss. Absolutely not an issue. But let's actually do a run where, well, actually I can't really force a run on auto where it goes kind of wrong. Because in this case, ooh, we did not strip. So this is actually potential where you can kind of see. We didn't get a death break. So Lauren missed the death break. And we missed to remove the defense buff. And that's where it just goes super wonky again, which is just one of those things. There's a lot of options where it can go really quite wonky. This could start stunning that multiple times. It is good that Cordelia does have a 2-turn block rather than a 1-turn block. But in this case, we get the boss back. We have to land that. We miss that as well. Shit RNG stage, blah, 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 yada, yada. You know the whole shebang. So in the end, is this a team that you could use? Yes, but there's definitely a lot of room for RNG, which just makes it pretty ass. And sure, you could add more shield sets and blah, 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 and more fight sets, and, or no, not shield fight sets, but more will sets and blah, blah, blah. You don't get stunned. Sure could do, but I wanted to kind of give this a try, but in the end, it's just one of those teams is gonna crash. It's fast, but will crash. That is just the main issue. So, therefore, this team, it's just not as good as it gets. So then, say, you might ask, say, what are you recommending for teams to rune in this case? Well, in all honesty, for most people, I would actually recommend to run this team that we did see on Reddit. It's very straightforward. You just go by this turn order, and you just rune them with legit whatever. Like, it will work. That is just the beauty of this team. You don't have to go a lot of nitpicking. You don't have to go super crazy on tuning exact perfect teams and blah, 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 that kind of stuff, or hitting thresholds to kill with a Claire or a whatever. It is just very straightforward. If you want to go for a faster team that is still good, I would recommend this team, which I also did showcase in a previous video. Link will be in the description for all of those teams. But that is just the main recommendation. This team in the end, it was a nice try. I might see potential where you actually put this with a maxi, and you go for both the Heihachi and the Brandia. I haven't really tried that out, but then again, that's a maxi team. Plus, I don't think it is. It's probably potentially super fast, but still potentially. I don't really like Lauren for main death break, so it's still kind of in the midst if I really do like this team or not. So those options are out there. You could also, in this case, could go for like a Shaina plus a Martina or something like that. There's definitely a bunch of options out there where you go this into a Rogue and then into a whatever for, and then you go into a Shaina or something like that. There's definitely a lot of options you could go for. But then again, if you just want to have straight, simple forward hits, I would go for this team over here. It has the most amount of 4-stars in there. It has only 4-stars in there, which also makes it the most free-to-play friendly out of all of the teams. This one is nice, but as mentioned, you need a triple fight set that is crazy good on the Claire. You need a pretty substantial set on the Agrius. And without that, you're just simply, I highly don't recommend to make that. But yeah, then again, you could also simply go for this team. This team is also, I've been running this team for a fair bit of time when I had to make my the scout battle going in for a sub 40. If you want just to get the sub 40, rune this team for sure. Like if you don't really care about anything and you just want to unlock the sub 40, this team as well, team 3, 100%. But if you want to go a bit faster and you actually want to run it yourself, I would probably potentially recommend team 2. It is definitely not as hard to rune as well. Link for that team in the description as mentioned. However, you might also ask, say, how are you going to run SF now? Well, that is a very interesting question right there, kind sir. Happy you asked. And let me actually showcase you how I will actually do my SF in the future and how I will be doing SF for a very, very long time. And it's most likely not gonna change anytime soon. So in the end, it is fast and average. It just derps as the issue. But back to the question, I will scout battle it. I will, for the living shit out of me, scout battle Steel Fortress because I absolutely hate this dungeon still. It's still way too RNG for so many options. If you want to go for this, sure, it's nice if you really have the rune requirements, then you could go for pretty fast average. But even then, 24 to 26 second average is slower than Giants. It's slower than Dragons by a long shot. Dragons is really easy nowadays. Necro, I don't really care too much about. You could argue for Necro. R5 is definitely a lot faster. And then you also have Punisher Scripts, which is like 10 times faster. So the worst dungeon for me to farm because it's RNG and slower is still Steel Fortress. I'm gonna scout battle that. So that is the video for me. Definitely, if you want to get the scout battle into the max, as mentioned over here, that is the easiest to rune. Guys, thanks a lot for watching for this one. And all of the other links will be in the description down below. And see you as always in the next one. Thanks for watching. If you would like to see more guides, join the Discord and check out the content tab for the guide video archive, which contains all of the guides that you might need. Hope to see you there.